Almost there.
Okay.
Okay, we are live.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Armenian American Mental Health Association's virtual conference of 2021. This conference will take place in 2 days, today and tomorrow. We have a presentation today, and then we have 2 presentations tomorrow. Today's presentation is called the Creating Hope, Diaspora Cooperation with Armenia. And we have speakers from multiple organizations, Armenian organization from diaspora who are working with Armenia and Armenian community. So each one of us or each group will take about 12 to 15 minutes to present their work, their agencies, their organizations, and their work that they have done with Armenia and helping Armenians. And then myself, I'm the discussant. I'm George Gharibian, psychologist, and I'm also the education and programming board, AAMHA's education and programming committee co-chair. So with that, I'll take it to Dr. Takooshian, who will be our moderator to help us to go through each presentation. And after we finish the presentations, we will also have some time for questions and answers. If you are in the Zoom, please enter your questions in the chat box. But if you are connecting us via Facebook Live, please put your questions in the comment section, and we'll get those questions, and hopefully we will be able to answer as many questions as possible. All right, thank you. With that, Dr. Takooshian, go ahead.
Can I post the screen? The Armenian community is blessed. Oh, sorry. Got to try that again. The Armenian community is blessed with many. No, it's not working. There we go. Is blessed with many wonderful organizations. And this is a dark time for Armenia, as we all know. After the peaceful revolution in 2018, Armenia now is faced with COVID and Artsakh and civil unrest. But the positive side is that the Armenian diaspora is a vibrant network of 8 million people. In fact, 8 of 11 million people live in the diaspora, only 3 million in the worldwide. The question comes up, what can diaspora Armenians do and Armenian groups to cooperate in this difficult time today? And fortunately, many of the diaspora groups have a great heart for Armenia and want to help. So this is the rationale of this panel, to bring together several people, several organizations, to briefly say what they're doing, and perhaps in the long run, how we could cooperate more with each other. We'll follow the program that George put together, and I'll just quickly mention the groups that are participating. First will be Raffi Jamgotchian to speak about the engineers and scientists, their origin and what they're doing now. And then Larry Najarian in New Jersey will speak about healthcare and medicine. The third speaker, I'll speak about behavioral scientists. The fourth will be Ani Kalayjian of Meaningful World, who will speak about humanitarian trauma and relief. The fifth will be Stella Petros in Glendale, who will speak about her organization, our host, the AAMHA. And finally, I don't see Alex Gevorkyan here, but he will speak about the Armenian Economics Association, which I did not know about till recently, but which is very active. If Harut Sasunyan is on the call, I'd like to give him a minute of my time later on to speak about High ID, which is seems like a wonderful platform. for diaspora cooperation with Armenians. So let me keep time, and I'll give you the 3-minute signal somehow while you're speaking, if you need it. But to hear Raffi Jamgotchian speak about the remarkable work of the Armenian engineers and scientists of America. Raffi?
Thank you, Harold. I'm going to share my screen as well. So hopefully that worked out. My name is Raffi Jamgotchian. I'm the president of the Northeast Division or Northeast section of the Armenian Engineers and Scientists of North America. The ASA was born in Glendale in 1983 and incorporated in 1996. And the New Jersey section, specifically the New York, New Jersey section, which later became the Northeast section, was initiated in 2009 by Aram Setyan, who was the founding president, along with Dr. Najarian, David Mikaelian, Hovannes Marirosyan, who I saw just joined, Vahan Tanal, Muran Bedichian, Harut Jamgotchian, my father, Raffi Unjan, and Vikem Bedian. And the mission of the ASA is fairly simple. It's committed to addressing the professional, technical, and scientific needs of fellow Armenians throughout the world. And that can come in a lot of different forms. And particularly in the Northeast Division, we have specific activities related to each of these, but it's primarily to support and encourage STEM-related activities with students. We bring in speakers from around the world, either in person or virtually. We acknowledge and recognize and encourage and then support accomplishments of Armenians around the world in STEM. And then we connect with colleagues in Armenia and foster cooperation. Some of the activities here in the United States, we have our annual mentoring forum. In fact, we're having our 11th annual mentoring forum tomorrow, 1 Eastern time, if you'd like to join in. This is the first time we'll be doing it virtually. In the past, we've always done it in person at Fordham University, and it's a great event. Students come, it's getting younger and younger. Professionals come, they connect with their counterparts in industry, and it's broad. It's not, in fact, we do this along with APO and a number of other industry groups. This year, we're doing 9 different Armenian organizations that are involved in the organization. So it's a wide breadth of folks getting together, connecting with students, encouraging students to not only get involved with their organizations, but also helping them in their careers and ultimately forming nice bonds. One of the small vignettes that we're going to be presenting tomorrow will be a young woman who started out as a mentee several years ago and is now, the full cycle has become a mentor. As I said, we have speaker series where we have folks come in and talk to professionals in various different forms. In fact, one of the speakers prior to me becoming the president, and this is now 2 years ago, I did a talk on cybersecurity to the ASA in the Northeast, a group where we invited people on and outside, and just partly was discussing the technology. Some of it is talking about threats and kind of also the career paths in that field. Another thing we do is we actually go even younger. We help sponsor and coordinate a science fair at the Holy Martyrs Armenian Day School in Queens, and where the students actually put together their own science experiments and science projects, and members of the AESA will critique and then present a prize to winning students. Again, this year we're doing it virtually. We're looking forward to a successful. Some of the other things that we do, we also are involved in activities in Armenia, some in direct work and some indirect. For example, We are doing work with the National University of Architecture and Construction of Armenia, where we're actually doing that in conjunction with members of the U.S. Academia. And then we're also in continuing to do work with the Engineering Incubator Foundation, where through monetary donations, plus also past education curriculum programs, helping them at the Gyumri Information Technology Center and the Vanadzor Technology Center, where they are creating programs to help soldiers who have come back from the Artsakh War, as well as widows from the Artsakh War, to learn technology life skills to not only handle their own home, but also provide a living wage in Armenia. Armenia is a very technology-centered country. It's one of our great gems of possibility there. And by bringing these folks into that and giving them the training and the aptitude to be able to go support their own families, I think is massive. And that's a continued effort that we're going to be doing throughout the year. Most recently, just fundraised a significant sum of money to help that organization. I think we funded half of their current program, and we're hoping to complete that as well. Another thing is the Ardashan village as well. We're going to show some pictures here on each of these. So here are some of the, I'm not going to read through all these, but these are all different collaborative things that we've done with, for example, Rutgers and Fund for Armenian Relief, courses that were taught in Armenia by American or AESA members. Here are some photos from the National University of Architecture and Construction, where there were some aspects of many of our ASA founding fathers, as we like to call them, you know, our Mount Rushmore, so to speak, who came out who visit Armenia on an annual basis to bring their expertise as well as collaborate with their counterparts over there. Here is Raffi Shanukian, who spent a significant amount of time and built a curriculum around some of the information, some of this training that's going on by the EIF, specifically at the Vanadzor Technology Center and the Gyumri Technology Center. Here's some photos in the Ardashan village. This was we helped build up the infrastructure upgrades to this school. AAMHA was significant work to this. They brought aid to villagers, tractors, irrigation system upgrades, modernization essentially to these remote villages as a basis to help them become more self-sufficient. Ultimately, everything that we do when it comes to STEM and engineering is related to this. It's train them, help them, not only train individuals there, but also have them be able to have the means to train themselves and move forward. It's all about, you know, teaching the fish, so to speak, to use a often used metaphor. Something that's kind of more of a newer thing that has started out a little bit prior to me getting involved in AESA, but more so even now, is on the cybersecurity side. While the IT sector is very robust in Armenia, we're seeing a lot of great software companies doing great things. We just saw a very massive valuation with a company called CRISP recently, who's doing a lot of work in removing of background noise in conferences like this. They plug into systems. One of the biggest platforms for that is a gaming platform similar to YouTube that is used by gamers called Twitch. And CRISP is basically the back end of that is removing all the all the noise that's on the system so that the participants can enjoy the platform better. Massive valuation by them. another company that is in the crypto business. Again, massive crypto chart, I believe it was called. Massive valuation with them. They're doing really well. So there's a lot of PictArt. There's another one, which is a mobile photo. It's, I think, one of the largest software companies now in Armenia. So more and more companies. One of my clients, which was a Glendale-based a software company called GlobalNet, was recently acquired by one of the largest software vendors in the world, Veritas. So we're seeing lots of foreign investment also seeing the potential of the Armenian IT sector. One of the areas that we're not really well noted in is in the cybersecurity side, which is why I bring all this up. So the seeds are there, and now we're looking to potentially foster this prospect of it. And this is where we see a massive potential benefit. One, not only economically, because if you see other countries who are under the similar kinds of stresses that Armenia is, take Israel, for example, where they've developed a massive cybersecurity defense within their own military complex, but then also have spawned off a lot of innovative companies that are now massive players in the industry only a few years later. We can definitely see that potential in Armenia as well. It's very similar, similar threats from their neighbors, but also a large potential for economic development. So we're hoping to help foster economic connections to empower Armenian firms to deliver those services to companies outside of Armenia, and as well as help develop the education program so that they have a bench of talent that they bring into to that. So that was some of the things that we're doing at the AESA, kind of what we've been doing, and kind of extending that out further just to keep going and making sure that we continue to do our ties with the with our friends and family members. Thank you.
That's inspiring, Raffi. Thank you. I gave you the 3-minute signal, but you didn't need 3 minutes to do. That's inspiring. I assume we should hold questions to the end, right, George?
Yes, yes, that'll be great. I think we will see how much time we have, and then we will make sure we have enough time to answer all the questions in there.
That wasn't quite 15. Yeah. The next speaker is the legendary Larry Najarian. Everybody in New York City knows he's the most active guy around. Active man. Ani Kalayjian is very active too. So Larry, can you tell us about the remarkable work of your medical and health group?
Thank you, Dr. Takooshian and Dr. George Gharibian, and thank you to the Armenian American Mental Health Association for the opportunity to talk this evening, and thank you for bringing us all together. We need more forums like this. Clearly, we've learned a lot of lessons as we've gone through the last year. The Armenian American Health Professionals Organization is a multifaceted, nonprofit, 501c3 medical philanthropy, volunteer-led. We represent over 500 healthcare providers in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. And what we do is we look for innovative healthcare solutions. We provide platforms that enables our membership to develop sustainable programs that will exponentially have impact utilizing their skill sets. We provide healthcare services and education, medical mentoring, medical workshops, emergency consultations, and counseling for Armenians in the tri-state area and in Armenia. Again, we're volunteer-led. Our volunteers give us their limited time and financial resources and their relationships to help bring a range of healthcare to our area, as well as medical supplies and education to Armenia. We have a board of 15 members, and everything we do is directed by a very simple 34-word mission statement. And we are just very grateful to our founders for giving us this mission statement, which is really a roadmap for everything that we do and will continue to do as we move into the future. What makes our organization very unique for the time it was founded in the 1990s is that we represent all healthcare professionals. Things used to be siloed, much like everything else in our community. But there was a breaking down of barriers. And in our organization, some of our best ideas come from nutritionists, doctorates in public health, pharmacists, dentists, as well as physicians. And we really feel like we are a much stronger organization because of that diversity and brings so many more ideas to us. We also want to pay tribute to Dr. Edgar Housepian, now deceased, the former chairman of neurosurgery at Columbia University Vagelos School of Medicine. He led the first mission to Armenia in 1988 after the earthquake. And due to his seminal efforts, Fund for Armenia Relief was born. And many of the programs that we currently do in Armenia are a consequence and derivative of his early efforts. Much of what we've done in response to these extremely challenging times with COVID, the Beirut explosion, and the pandemic really comes back to a triad of activities that really go to our core. And that's medical missions, telehealth, and continuing medical education. And they all work synergistically, as we'll see in a few moments. But the medical missions program headed by Dr. Joyce Kurdian is really an amazing opportunity for us to press the flesh. Unlike medical missions where we don't want to count how many patients we see. In fact, we judge our success by how many healthcare providers we develop relationships with, how much medical information do we transfer during the mission, and hopefully through those relationships we create after the mission is over. So it's like a medical mission that never ends. It just builds on itself. And we're very, very happy to have been to many of the villages through this program. Our continuing medical education program has been active since 2011. It's one of our core competencies. Prior to the war, we have provided continuing medical education to over 80% of the ARTSOC physicians. It's so popular, many have wanted to take the course 2 and 3 times. The concept is unique to Armenia. Here in the United States, we're very comfortable going to physicians and healthcare providers, assuming they're board certified and up to date. After the 1988 independence, the medical system broke down in some respects, and there was no continuing medical education. In fact, many healthcare providers were functioning on the knowledge they attained 10, 20, 30 years ago. So beginning in 2011, we helped fill that void with a unique concept of providing continuing medical education. What we do is we identify talent in ARTSOC where there is needs. We then take that healthcare provider, we bring them to Armenia for a month where we pay them a stipend to make up for their lost income. We give them housing, and we assign them to a medical mentor where they will learn a critically needed skill like delivering a baby, treating a heart attack or asthma attack. In addition, we give them computer literacy because many of them are in areas where they don't have access to medical libraries. In fact, in ARTSOC, I don't believe there was one. So by getting computer access, they then open their world to a whole new body of medical information. We want to pay tribute to Dr. Raffi, who is the founder of this program and whose family continues to support us. So we meet the physicians. We've now provided training when we go on the missions. We also give lectures and meet these doctors whom we've been training to. We supplement that with telemedicine. We did our first telemedicine in 2008 and 2009 from New York City. And this program is ongoing where we identify needs for medical information and then find the right healthcare provider in the diaspora to give that information in a lecture format, which is in some cases translated. Through this technique, Armenians in Yerevan saw the first kidney transplant at Avakir Hospital. Mentoring, as Raffi mentioned, is very important to us. Many of us want to give back to our younger aspiring colleagues, and we've been very involved with a joint venture with the Armenian Engineers Scientific Association for the last 11 years. Tomorrow, we'll put a plug in also, Raffi. We have our first virtual event, and we're very happy to have over 100 participants registered so far, literally throughout the world. We have the support of the Ministry of the Diaspora in Armenia, and we are looking forward to having people from literally throughout the world to join us. And here we see 2 of our members, board members, who are very active in promoting these programs. So our response to COVID-19 was both domestic and international. Over the years, AAHPO has seen itself as a source of medical information that's vetted. We've been operational during Hurricane Sandy, other natural disasters that have befallen our area. So we were very ready, going deep into our bench, looking for information and sharing that information with the public through sometimes 2-3 emails a week, giving them the evidence, giving them the facts so they could make the right decisions, evidence-based decisions for their loved ones and for themselves. We also were keenly aware that we have some tremendous talent in our nonprofit organizations, but they're not scientists, they're not physicians, and they needed information so they in turn could lead the Armenian community. So we actively sought out the leadership of the clergy and the alphabet soup of Armenian philanthropies. We met weekly via Zoom for 2.5 hours, sharing medical information and learning how we all can work in a coordinated response. It was really heartwarming, and it was incredible being with the leaders of these organizations on a week-in, week-out basis. In fact, Barton Gregorian did join us at one time. Also, for those of you who don't know, he unfortunately passed away yesterday. There was a crisis during the pandemic. It was like someone turned the light switches off. People were stranded. Imagine you going on vacation. You're going away for a weekend. How much medicine do you bring? Do you bring your medical equipment for sleep apnea? Many travelers didn't, and a lot of Armenian citizens were stranded throughout the Northeast. We were in daily communication with the Armenian embassy, and we're calling these individuals, seeking to help them get their medications and medical supplies as needed, and in some cases referring to physicians, volunteer physicians within our network. We also provided assistance to the public in our area. You know, the New York, New Jersey area was literally ground zero back in March of last year. Bedlam broke out. It was total chaos. Physicians were missing in action. Patients didn't know where to turn. I am intimately aware of several situations where people were discharged from the hospital. They couldn't get access to medicines, oxygen, or their physicians. So AAHPO quickly set up a medical SWAT team using telehealth, and we were able to communicate with these individuals who contacted us through our hotline or through info@aapo.org or through networks of people calling us personally or texting us. And in some cases, we made house calls. Really, truly an incredible time. We put out an all points bulletin for a breathing machine, and we had one doctor drive from Philadelphia to New York with it to help a stranded traveler. We also helped raise funds for medical relief. These three individuals were truly part of our core response. Dr. Celine Kojuklanian, pediatric infectious disease, Dr. John Belazikian, chairman emeritus of endocrinology at Columbia and a world-renowned researcher, president of the Osteoporosis Foundation in Armenia, and Dr. Kim Hakimian in public health. With these three, we were able to share lots and lots of advice with the Armenian community. In terms of what we were doing, we are just one organization in the healthcare sector. There are many organizations throughout the world, and we were all communicating in a coordinated fashion weekly in 2- and 3-hour phone calls, sharing our frustrations, looking for solutions, asking what works, what didn't work. Also important, typically we all get phone calls and text messages and emails from this doctor, that doctor in Armenia, this will-do-gooder, this philanthropist, and the system was inundated. And how do you filter out what is needed and what is not needed? We developed a system where we coordinated with the ministries of the Diaspora, the Ministry of Health and Defense, and created priority lists so we could identify what was needed. So we had a central data bank. We also had a data bank of medical personnel that were needed. So for example, a rehab physician was not needed very early on. We needed anesthesiologists and cardiologists and pulmonologists. During the war, we needed trauma surgeons, burn surgeons. Now we need the rehab doctors. So we developed a way for doctors to communicate with us so we could best utilize their skills and put them in the right hospital. What we see here is an example of one of the priority lists where we have medium priority, low priority, high priority. It changed daily. It was a living list that we would go through. Dr. Deborah Furman was amazing, fielding calls like, hey, I'm going to go to Costco and I'm going to buy the whole aisle of Tylenol. Or I hear the soldiers need sleeping bags and I'm going to go to the local store and get 20 sleeping bags and send them. We were able to tell these individuals that this is wonderful, your thoughts are in the right place, but they can buy the sleeping bags in Armenia made by Armenians in Armenia, and they can buy the Tylenol there. Just make it in cash donation instead. And that's what happened in many instances. So the other thing that really hit us, we're healthcare providers, but we quickly got into the supply chain business. We did put an all points bulletin out for volunteers, and I tell you, it was such a heartwarming response. People volunteered. Many had time on their hands, and they were driving between hospitals, between doctors' offices, collecting medical goods. The Knights of Vartan in particular was extremely helpful. We had trucking capacity donated by Michael Gharibian Carpets. They were a drive flooring company. They went up and down the Northeast coast, bringing everything to our collection center where we had inventory capacity, computerizing everything. Then used warehouse space donated by Mr. Saro Haratunian, and then ultimately utilizing his skills and knowledge to learn how to send and ship all these pallets via globing to Armenia. It was an incredible effort. We also had acute needs. We had a donation, several donations of medical instruments. Here we see 300 pounds of medical instruments being sorted out at Lenox Hill Hospital. Next, we had to wrap them in bubble wrap, put them in 50-pound duffel bags. And these duffel bags were carefully labeled, and they went to Armenia via volunteers who was just so kind. They were met there by representatives of the Minister of Health and Defense. And within 48 hours, these instruments were being put to use, helping save lives. So really this whole situation was incredibly impactful. It was incredibly meaningful to me. Just a heartwarming experience to see the generosity in people, how people wanted to help, how people wanted to reach out to each other and make a bad situation better and coordinate activities. Thousands of dollars were donated, several tons of medical equipment were donated and supplies, and we really made a difference. Lessons learned. One, this is a relatively peaceful time. We hope peace will last forever, but things happen, earthquakes happen, war happens. We need at this time to have a very thoughtful formulation of emergency response protocols. And this is where I commend the AAMHA for reaching out to the Armenian community, trying to bring people together so all these silos of activity can work in a coordinated fashion. Nothing is going to happen without high-level government support, presidential level support. There are obstacles that we encountered, particularly with customs, crossing borders, taxation. We had things confiscated in Moscow. So we need very high-level government support to really pave the way for these items to get there in a timely way so they get put into action. We need a coordinated public messaging campaign. We don't need people going to Costco and getting Tylenol. We need people to know what we need. So again, it doesn't clog up the system. We also don't need people going and sending things on their own to this hospital and that hospital because it just interferes with that centralized system that we've created. We have to foster and nourish a donor supply chain here in America from all the companies in the area. In New Jersey, we developed the demands of the situation. We created relationships with hospitals, which were just incredible. But we need to foster that now that we don't have that exigent need. We have to have innovations. We made many innovations at a time of crisis, but I believe we can really build on what we did. And the other thing, again, I can't express more than enough is gratitude. Donors were incredible, volunteers were incredible. We couldn't get our message out without the support of all these organizations. We had 6 seminars for the public, question and answer. Some of them had over 10,000 views. And how do you get that message out? And that is with assistance. So on that note, I really want to thank you for putting together this forum. And I want to thank my colleagues who also did a tremendous job throughout this crisis. Thank you very much.
What a difference you make, Larry. How inspiring.
Thank you.
As the third speaker, I'll speak about the Armenian Behavioral Science Association. Do you want to go next, Donnie? We see your post, Ani.
Ani, you're muted.
Ani, we're seeing your post.
Okay, can you share your screen because I'm using a new computer, so I'm having a little challenge. Can you?
Well, we see your screen.
Yeah, Harold, if you share yours, it will be yours will be on the screen.
Okay, let me just unshare. Can you, as a host, Gevorkyan, can you, as a host, stop my sharing because I'm trying to use
Okay.
everything. Okay, great. Apologies. Go ahead, Harold.
As long as you're doing it, you could present next. I could present after you.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
I see Harold Sasunian on there. Do you want to say a word about your program, your project, Harold? Or you could do it afterwards. One thing that George Gharibian emphasizes, we should speak about Armenian identity. And maybe Harold could speak later on for a moment about the remarkable project, high ID project he's got. But for now, let me present briefly about the Armenian behavioral scientists. And I've had trouble with my computer too, but I hope this is visible.
Yes.
There we go. I think it is working. Okay, hopefully. The Armenian Behavioral Scientist was formed in August 1987 in New York City during the meetings of the International Council of Psychologists and the American Psychological Association. It was formed by 6 founders, each representing a different field. We had a symposium at the International Council of Psychologists. It was very electric that afternoon, August 31st, when all these Armenian experts, many of us saw each other's names in the literature, meeting for the first time. And you see Hagaz Grigorian there speaking at that moment with many distinguished colleagues in the audience. And then that evening, we went to Fordham University on the 12th floor. We founded the association, and we launched an effort to increase communication between Armenian behavioral scientists in the United States and hopefully overseas. Since 1987, the ABSA has done many different things. The network has grown from about 280 US Armenians of behavioral scientists of Armenian ancestry, about 280, and now its numbers about 750 in the US and overseas. And these are the various things that ABSA has done. And I would say the effort is to increase Armenian identity, because many of the behavioral scientists of Armenian ancestry barely identify with their ancestry. And when they're given an award by ABSA for their outstanding work, they're asked to comment on how their Armenian ancestry influenced their work. And it's quite, what should I say, quite inspiring to hear them speak about how their work was shaped by their ancestry. Let me quickly go through these and point out that we've developed directories of Armenian behavioral scientists in the USA. And then because of the earthquake in 1988, we developed directories in Armenia of Armenian behavioral scientists so they could meet each other and do programs together. We publish bulletins. We host regional gatherings. We've had about over 30 regional gatherings in the past 30 odd years. We also give outstanding achievement awards to colleagues who have made a mark in the field. We're an information clearinghouse. We spread information constantly about opportunities that are available. We mentor students, which is a big deal because there are so many, as Raffi could attest, there are so many students who want guidance, and there are the experts there to give it to them. And more recently, we've been collaborating with the Republic of Armenia colleagues, and we have an ongoing project to identify Armenians psychologists around the world with Yerevan State University. So, oh, what is this doing now? Let me try to advance this. There we go. So this illustrates the projects. We developed directories of Armenian behavioral scientists to develop a feeling of we-ness, of community. And these have been useful over the years, although now it's more online than in print. But in process of doing these directories, we also do a survey. We ask the experts, would they be willing to counsel students, consult with the media, consult with Armenian organizations on a paid or a voluntary basis, and how fluent are they in Armenian, which is often a factor in their ability to serve. When the earthquake hit, we were able to collaborate with colleagues in the Republic of Armenia. Let me tell you a little secret. In Armenia, they don't always communicate with each other. Sometimes they're not very friendly with each other, but thanks to Gevorkyan Vardanyan and Ani Kalayjian, we were able to put together a directory of the 38 psychology programs in Armenia, which never existed before, and about 120 Armenian psychologists in the Republic. So these directories in the US and Armenia have been helpful to get people to recognize each other. And then we published bulletins for many years on what's going on among Armenian behavioral scientists. And it's fair to say that some of the leaders in every field, not just engineering, not just medicine, but also behavioral science, are people of Armenian extraction who are making a difference. We have regional gatherings, and the formula that we've developed is that when the American Psych Association or the Eastern Psych Association or other regional or national groups meet, we try to get the Armenian scientists together. Here you see a picture in Washington, D.C. of in 2005 at the APA. Mark Krikorian is an expert you might often see on television talking about immigration. And Alan Solarian with the eye patch is one of the leading psychiatrists, a consultant to the FBI, a man who's made quite a difference in his career, and they're receiving awards for outstanding achievement. I have to smile a bit because we had a lavish dinner there with about 100 people, and many of them were patients of Dr. Solarian who wanted to salute him, and he paid for their dinner. So it was a really joyous event that we had, which is unforgettable. And then in 2013 in Moscow, we saluted Sergei Anikopolov, who's a leading researcher in the area. And for the first time, many behavioral scientists in Moscow met each other. And we have a brandy toast there for Dr. Anikopolov. And then more recently in 2019, Ani Kalayjian and I invited Shake Kazarian, a leading expert on genocide, to speak. And the Armenian consul in that region came with us, visited Chicago, and we had quite a remarkable gathering. And then in 2019, Yerevan State University was celebrating its 100th anniversary of psychological science in Yerevan. And they reached out to the diaspora, and the behavioral scientists, several of them came. Ani Kalayjian and I, there was Shake Kaftadian from Glendale, and Jane Mahakian, an expert on aging. And we had a large, gathering there of diaspora experts. And we were able to offer them a free membership in the Association for Psychological Science. APS normally costs about $150 to join, but they were willing to give memberships for free to Armenia to encourage the indigenous psychologists, and that was a positive experience. And then we saluted APS at that meeting, a stronger bond between the US and Armenia. And more recently, in 2020, the year 2020, we were able to launch the first Psych-Chi chapter, the Psychology Honor Society, in the entire Transcaucasus, and that was at Yerevan State University. So in sum, we've tried to find ways to link the diaspora and the Republic. And our current project since 2021 has been to work with Hrant Havanesian and Sergei Anikopolov to develop a pan-Armenian census of behavioral scientists around the world in each country, France, England, Beirut, to find, to make an international directory behavioral scientists, something which we feel is very timely at this time of peril in Armenia. So let me thank you and close my screen. And I believe that was under 12 minutes. Okay, I didn't have to cut myself off. And Harald, are you there? No, he's not at the, Ani Kalayjian is our next speaker. And it's fair to say that at the United Nations, where some of us work, Ani Kalayjian is a force of nature. Meaningful World, she'll describe so many different things they are doing now with the Republic.
Am I unmuted?
It's perfect.
All right.
I'll
Thank
give
you
the-
so
I'll give
much.
you the 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for both co-chairs, Dr. Gharibian and Dr. Takooshian, and my esteemed, wonderful panelists, as well as AAMHA for organizing this program. Association for Trauma Outreach and Prevention, Meaningful World, was founded in 1988, right a few months before the devastating earthquake. And since then, we have been in 48 countries around the world and 28 states in America. And you see here Haiti, Kenya, Armenia, Congo, and other parts of the world. My quote for today is celebrating differences. It isn't where you come from, it's where you're going that counts. And I'm very mindful of where I come from and where we are going with our organization, acknowledging the past, learning from the past, and ensuring that we transform the generational trauma, as Maya Angelou said it so poignantly. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Our mottos are: when one helps another, both become stronger, as well as shared sorrow is half sorrow, while shared joy is double joy. Our passion for Armenia dates back to the devastating earthquake, and our attempt in the last 6 years to establish the peace and to establish the suicide prevention lifeline. In 2013, our organization being affiliated at the United Nations, we saw a research by the UN stating how the suicide rates have been increasing in Armenia. That prompted us to immediately act on that. And last year we had the opening of the Suicide Lifeline at the same conference that Dr. Takooshian was talking about, the 100th anniversary of Yerevan State University. On October 10th, on Mental Health Day, we had the opening. Our approach is three-pronged. Our first level is immediately after disasters and trauma to help heal the communities and then empower them by educating them. Then the second level is research and publications to disseminate through media and print and TV and radio. And the third level is to work on revisions of old, antiquated policies. We have several publications. You can see this at meaningfulworld.com. This book is the first, as a matter of fact, at the American Psychological Association's Peace Psychology book series, because before this, which was in 2010, the F word, forgiveness, was never included in scientific journals because they always assume forgiveness is spiritual and it should be only in Bibles and religious books. But then lots of research started, scientific research started coming out, reinforcing the importance of forgiveness for our health, immune system, and as well as happiness. So our history is very important, not to continue carrying the trauma, generational and collective, but to learn from it. And our latest book is on Forget Me Not, 7 Steps for Healing the Body, Mind, and Spirit. So let's look at some of our strengths before we discuss some of the complications, issues, and problems. Our resilience, religion being the first state in 301 AD, our high literacy, our poetic, creative, and artistic demeanor, strong family and dynasty values, and strong diaspora. So we started working in the epicenter in Spidak and then in Gyumri, Vanadzor, as well as Yerevan in 1988, exactly a month after the earthquake, in the tents, in that freezing weather, without the proper heating devices, through art therapy with the children, with the teachers. And we found that a lot of the symptoms were similar that we see in America. PTSD symptoms with children, withdrawal, regression, and anger, the same, similar with adults, uncertainty, feeling of anger and tense and edgy and jumpy, and so on. And we have published these results in our books. So there are many challenges in Armenia, the earthquake, then Iraqi refugees start coming in. We went to help the Iraqi refugees, then the Baku, Sumgait, Azerbaijan, those refugees, then Gharapa, again, the recent war, and then the Syrian war as well, and then the most recent September 44-day war. So some of the positive post-traumatic lessons are that it takes tragedy to unite people, how important it is to express love, not to assume that we love one another, but to really verbalize it, not to take life for granted, good care of ourselves, self-care being very important, and turning our helplessness into empowerment, such as all the organizations that went ahead of me and talked about how they have been helping Armenia and the communities that you are interfaced with. We live every day as if it was my last and restore my faith. These were, according to our research, some of the lessons learned. So we have a model that we use, that it's a biopsychosocial and eco-spiritual model. It's a 7-step integrative healing model that integrates psychodynamic theories, interpersonal, logotherapeutic, humanistic, energetic, nutritional, as well as mindfulness, movement, yoga, and meditation. So we use the emotional intelligence as the tool to empower and strengthen Armenia and the world around in 48 countries. This is what we use, and we have it translated in all the languages of the countries that we serve. And we develop and nurture emotional intelligence. It's a very important tool that is being ignored in Armenian communities. We also teach how to transform horizontal violence. That's what Dr. Takooshian, I think, was referring to, where organizations don't work collaboratively in Armenia. People have distrust of one another. This is a phenomenon based on oppressed people's psyche. We have been oppressed over 600 or more years with Ottoman Empire, then over 75 years by the Soviet Union. So all that oppression goes down to the people, and the people's frustrations go up, but there's nowhere to go up because the oppression continues. So it blows, the frustration blows up horizontally. It's called horizontal violence. And the African Americans in the South of America call it crab in the bucket syndrome. I don't know how many of you have seen actual crabs in the bucket. When there are several of them, one tries to come out of the bucket, second one pulls it down. Third one tries to come out of the bucket, fourth one pulls it down. Guess what? None of them get out of the bucket. So we have this in Armenian as well. In English, it's be a true humanitarian, lift one another up. Don't be a crab in the bucket, pulling one another down. While in Armenian is partsasrek megmuisin, eregiskagan hai, mi eregokinin tuilin hadagakashochetz kedni bez. So these banners we give in every institution, in every NGO, orphanage, older adult centers, universities, and everywhere that we go, we give them. And we have them now in my luggage. We're leaving on the 28th of April. We're going to Armenia, and we're going to help the emotional healing, the collective trauma from the war, as well as from the defeat. This is a lot of work that needs to be done there. So emotional intelligence is based on empathy, something that we need to nurture in the Armenian communities, not to push the feelings down and out and blame one another, point the finger without realizing, well, guess what? When you point the finger, how many fingers are pointing at you? So being mindful of that. So the earthquake, for example, is something that showed us how preparation is very important. Look, in 1994, the same Richter scale earthquake happened in Northridge. We were there to help. The whole bridge collapsed. But in less than 6 months, California rebuilt already even better than before, and only 61 deaths were in California, while over 75,000 and still counting, because that was Soviet time and they were not releasing the true numbers. So preparation. Because of time, I'm gonna skip some of these slides and focus some of the continued emotional challenges, the grief, the political corruption, political confusion, fear of politics and distrust. 17 candidates and political organizations in a 3 million small country is really very challenging. And a lot of this amot, shame, goes around and trying to put people down, and helplessness and hopelessness continue. So we have also worked here in fact, at Fordham, from Fordham University for 10 years, we worked on Armenian-Turkish dialogue. You see the panel here are half Turkish, half Armenian, and there is even one Kurdish in this group. What we did is have dialogue groups throughout the year, and once a year we had a public event at Fordham University. And then we went to Armenia and we did workshops within the Dzizernagapert, the Armenian Genocide Museum and Research Memorial. And we also participated in TARC. I don't know how many of you have heard that Turkish-Armenian reconciliation, which was track 2 political reconciliation effort, approved by the Clintons at the time, and was also supported by Armenia and Russia. And there were 5 Armenian and 5 Turkish men in this TARC, led by Dr. Phillips from Columbia University's Human Rights Peace Center. I was invited as a psychologist consultant, and I saw from the first hour that this was not going to work, and I shared my observations with them. some of the current challenges is still about the horizontal violence and this T, Hayastan T, Karabakh T, Lipanan T, Surya T, America T. These T's are really dividing and fragmenting our country. And the pressure from also the neighbors is not making situation easier, because Armenia does not enjoy a collaborative and peaceful relationship with 3 of its neighbors. Not a good relationship with Georgia. Well, we know what happened with Azerbaijan and Turkey. So the only one we have is Iran. This is a very, very difficult situation. Just imagine that you around your house, all 3 areas, you can't stand them, they can't stand you. There's hatred, violence, and even that violence goes to other countries and they kill each other because in Russia, for example, a Nazari who had married an Armenian, her brother came from Azerbaijan and killed her and the husband, who was Armenian. So our attempt from Meaningful World, ATOP, is to help people and be the arrow from revenge transforming to respect, from retaliation to restitution, from resent to renew, from resist to reconciliation, from refuse to resolution, from repel to reframe, and from repress to regroup. This is our effort, and we have been consistently doing this, if not every year, every other year in some years, totaling of 20-some missions to Armenia. And the one that we were supposed to have gone on last year in April, it was canceled because of COVID. And since COVID, we have been also offering weekly support groups. Every Thursday at noon, you can share this with your communities as well. We have a support group, and we have people calling in from all around the world, Egypt and Jordan and Syria and Africa, and as well as US. So I'd like you to take benefit of that free Zoom support group and let your families know. In all of our deliberations, we need to be mindful of what we're doing and how it will impact the next 7 generations. Now, this is a sculpture in New York. Okay, it's my last 2 slides, Harold. This is a sculpture in New York at the Cathedral St. John the Divine, and you will see this human silhouette, a large one, and then a smaller and a smaller and a smaller, until at the end, I'm not sure if you can see, there is a red dot, the fetus. So according to the Native American philosophy, you need to be mindful of your actions and decisions, because it's going to be passed on to minimum 7 generations. But now the research shows that through DNA, it is passed on to 14 generations, not 7. So we need to be mindful by collaboratively working together to uplift one another. And this is my last slide. One woman in southern India, this valley was barren. There was not one flower. It was rocky, muddy, and just an ugly place. She made it her goal. For 25 years, every year she went and put the seeds and bulbs of flowers. And look at this, like a rainbow, like the chakra energy colors, purple, orange, yellow, green, and they're different colors, but in harmony, giving us this aesthetic beauty where, I don't know, for me, it's kind of peaceful just looking at it. It gives us this aesthetic beauty, a tapestry that pulls all the natural colors together. My last question or comment for you is, where are your flowers, seeds of flowers, and where are your bulbs or flowers, and how committed you are and how consistent are you in nurturing them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ani. Thank you. The next speaker is Stella Petros from the AAMHA, who will speak about her organization.
Thank you so much, Dr. Takooshian. Let me see if I can share my screen. Not this one, sorry. Okay.
Very good.
Yes, we are good? Okay,
Good.
Very nice. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Stella Petros, and I am the Armenian American Mental Health Association Board President. It is a great pleasure to be here today and represent this great association that I'm very proud to be a part of. And I'm very happy to be part of this great STEAM panel today. Sorry. Okay. I would like to start by giving you a very short history about Armenian American Mental Health Association, its mission, vision, and goals. I will talk about the governing board and various activities that we are involved in. The idea of having mental health associations serving the Armenian community in Greater Los Angeles was formed due to the need of having culturally sensitive programs for the Armenian community, the need to have a greater representation in the mental health field in Los Angeles County, decreasing the stigma about mental health in our community, creating a network of mental health professionals of Armenian descent, and increasing mental health awareness in our community. This started by a few of our mental health professionals coming together and starting this process. We owe the start of this association to Dr. Emma Oshagan, to Dr. Charles Kalayjian, to Dr. Raffi, and many more pioneers who dedicated their time and spearheaded the establishment of Armenian American Mental Health Association, also known as, or referred to as AAMHA. AAMHA is a nonprofit organization. It started in 2006 and officially incorporated in 2009. Our vision has always been to be a strong advocate for mental health in the Armenian community. AAMHA represents the mental health professionals of Armenian descent in the fields of psychiatry, psychology, marriage and family therapy, social work, and any other related fields. What is our mission? So AAMHA's mission has been to be a strong advocate for mental health in the Armenian community. Our mission has been focused on advocating mental health, advancing mental health awareness and practices, and decreasing stigma about mental health. We would like to empower the Armenian community in a challenging social environment, also helping to diminish Armenian identity conflict related to the issues of immigration, and assist in creating a balance that embraces both cultures, US and Armenian, at a level that makes our community feel fulfilled. We strongly believe in the process of mental health prevention through increasing awareness, community education, and information exchange. Our goals are to create educational programs about mental health for our community, establish a forum for mental health professionals to discuss, consult, and exchange ideas. One of our goals has been and continues to be to provide opportunities to network for mental health professionals through social events. Our goal for our community has been to promote and improve existing mental health services for Armenians and to be a referral source that informs and connects the community members to available mental health resources. The strategies that we utilize, we use various means to achieve our objectives. Since the inception of AAMHA, the association has been consistently organizing mental health forums. We invite mental health experts to present on different topics that are focused on current research and evidence-based practice models. These forums also provided the participants opportunities to ask questions and exchange ideas. We have organized social events where we invite mental health professionals to attend, relax, exchange information, expand on their professional network. These events usually happen a few times a year. So before the pandemic, all these events were in person. However, during the pandemic, we, like many other associations, became creative and started our mental health forums and social events virtually. We have also attended and participated in multiple health fairs and mental health awareness walks. We have collaborated with different associations in organizing joint lectures and conferences. Our board members and advisors have done multiple TV interviews discussing various mental health topics, bringing awareness and addressing the stigma around mental health. These activities have also provided our association to become recognized by our community in the hope of increasing our membership. Our governing board, basically, consists of 9 board members. We have our president, the vice president, secretary, treasurer, and we have our advisors, who are, some of them are previous board members and with knowledge and expertise about AAMHA and its mission and what it stands for. So they are part of, they come to our board meetings and support our board members. We also have a few committees. We have educational, social, membership, and website committee. And recently we have also established an ethics committee. So I would like to reflect on the year 2020 for our association. So the year 2020 has been a taxing year for all of us. Due to the outbreak of COVID-19, a global health crisis ensued, triggering a profound impact on our mental health and in the way we perceived our world and our everyday lives. We were faced with the pandemic and our lives changed. However, for our community, especially, 2020 has been a difficult year to say the least. As Armenians, we were also forced to tackle and suffer the trauma of war in our homeland, loss of lives, the eventual loss of lands, and the civil unrest. After the start of the war on September 27, it felt like the fear of pandemic faded away and our focus shifted on mobilizing the community to support the war efforts. AAMHA board met on September 29 to discuss how we could help our country. We decided that as Mental Health Association, we can help by providing support to mental health professionals in Armenia. We were able to connect and collaborate with the clinicians in Armenia and discuss and identify the support that they needed. On October 1st, a call went out to recruit mental health professionals for this enormous and urgent task. The response that we got was overwhelming and encouraging. AAMHA received over 230 emails from mental health professionals expressing their readiness to volunteer in assisting and supporting the professionals in Armenia. This is how the AAMHA volunteer group was formed. In the first week of October, the Organizing and Consultation Committee met for the first time. The volunteers were divided into 3 groups. We had training and education group, we had consultation, which consisted of mental health professionals and social workers, and we had our organization committee or group. Consultation groups were formed to share experiences, advice, and expertise with the mental health professionals in Armenia. These groups provided professionals with a safe space to come and discuss the cases they were working with. We created 10 groups. Each group consisted of 5 to 7 clinicians from Armenia and at least 2 facilitators from the diaspora. These groups were conducted in Armenian and were held on a weekly basis. The consultation team and groups wrapped up and terminated their work together in February. However, we still have a couple of groups that are ongoing. Our training and education group aimed at providing training on various topics to the general public and mental health professionals. Trainings included evidence-based practice models and focused on various clinical approaches. Our mental health professionals provided the training in Armenian and English. The trainers used Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook Live platform to connect with the audience. trainings and educational videos focused on trauma, impact of war on mental health, grief and loss, cognitive processing therapy, trauma-focused CBT, and many, many more. Of course, these works could not have been possible without our organizing group or committee. The organizing committee was responsible for creating training flyers, managing our social media accounts, creating the Zoom, the links for Zoom, Instagram, Facebook trainings, and managing all the emails and correspondence and announcements. I would like to mention it one more time. This work would not have been possible without the dedication and fierce commitment of our volunteers who took on this enormous responsibility without question or hesitation. We are happy with what we were able to accomplish in a short period of time. The wonderful thing about hope is the promise of a better or brighter future. We believe that our collaboration with our counterparts in Armenia provided hope and the belief that circumstances in the future will be better, provided support with the mere fact that they were reassured that they weren't alone in their helping journey of healing and recovery. Even though we were thousands of miles away, but we were standing with them and by them. Our collaboration created lasting connections and relationships. We believe that our colleagues know that all they have to do is to reach out, and we will be there for them to support and assist in any way that we can. We are hoping that our collaboration paved the way for decreasing stigma around mental health. What we have for future plans that we have, what we are looking forward to, it's currently what we are discussing. We are in the discussion and working on a way to establish a mental health hotline in Armenia. There is a great interest and need, and we are in the discussing and planning stages. AAMHA will continue collecting donations for professional development to support mental health programs and provide financial support for continuity of care for war casualties. We are collaborating and will continue our collaboration with mental health professionals in Armenia. So we remain hopeful and optimistic that our spirit will surmount all odds. We come together to continue our path of harmony, standing together in our unified mission to achieve the goals that matter to us most. We at Armenian American Mental Health Association believe that our community is resilient and we will succeed. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Abris. Our final speaker, thank you, Stella.
Sure.
Our final speaker is Aleksandr Gevorkyan, who's with us from St. John's University to speak about the Armenian Economic Association. Dr.
Right.
Gevorkyan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Harold. And good evening, everyone, and thanks for inviting me. Let me quickly switch to my screen. I don't have a formal presentation, so this will be a rather informal way of introducing you into our activities. First of all, myself, I'm Aleksandr Gevorkyan. I'm an associate professor at St. John's University and an author of this Transition Economies book, which we can come back to a bit later. My work sort of spreads across the macroeconomics in general in development, but also topics of diaspora, which I'm also happy to talk about separately later. The Armenian Economic Association is a rather young group, but it's a very energetic and somewhat organized group that is trying to bring the idea of academic research in economics in a very more formal way to Armenia. There are many different ways how this is being done. First of all, it's a group that pulls together resources, economists from across the world. We have board members, let me show you this, from spread out across the United States, Europe, and of course in Armenia, right? So these are all our friends. The mission of the organization is to really contribute to development economics education, specifically in Armenia, encourage more research and study of economic activity, also connecting with policymakers and sort of the usefulness of academic work in policy making. there's personally to me there's something that is interesting, because there's through the 90s and through sort of in the the sphere of economic policy, through the rejection of the older model, there came something that was supposed to be a new and efficient model, which in itself resulted in certain ups and downs, one might say politely. But what's happening right now is that in general, globally, right, economists are struggling with a way to explain what to do next and how to sort of wrap our minds around it. So this is our hope, that by pulling the resources from different perspectives, because despite what you might think, there's not one view among economists, right? You ask one economist about an opinion or a question, and there will be 3 different opinions just from one person. So it's not that simple, and hopefully through our interaction, we're able to contribute to inform sort of the academic world, the policy-making world, but also the general public. So what is it that we do? We have several projects, several initiatives, right? The most important one is our annual meeting. And this is the one that brings everyone to Armenia. And of course, the pandemic made a major change to our plans. With last year, we'll see how things will go this year. Let's say before the 2020 period time, we were averaging, I don't know, a few hundred people participating, but also what was also very inspiring was to see our colleagues from Armenia taking part in these meetings. And then over some period of time, non-Armenian economists started to participate as well. And we've had people coming from the United States, from Europe, different countries, and so on, right? So that's very interesting. The meetings usually are coordinated in cooperation with local universities, the American University, and I'm forgetting, and others, but also with the local offices of the World Bank, the IMF, and Central Bank of Armenia. Usually our meetings feature guest speakers, those speakers who might rarely turn their ways towards Armenia had it not been for our invitation or sort of the year that we spent working with them. So this year's conference is going to be on June 24th, and primarily will be online, at least sort of we're trying, I think this is where it's going to be. And we have already 3 speakers. Sergei Guriev was the chief economist at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and then we have Leo Hanyan and Joanna Rickney, and then there's a range of topics that may be presented, right? It has to be, well, the one requirement is that it has to be a rigorous economic analysis paper, but the topics are very broad. Last year, I organized a session on transition economies, and we had a very interesting interactive discussion there. Usually, the conference also has several awards, and those could be funded by different organizations as well. So we have an award named after an exceptionally known, well-known Armenian economist, of Armenian descent, American economist, Armen Alchan, and then there are others. So by going, well, when we are able, right, by going to Armenia and connecting with local economists, it's not just the economists who attend our sessions, but students or other researchers from other fields as well. And the networking value that has been mentioned before, the connection, I think it's incredible and has an incredible long-term benefit, right? And that's what sort of I find important in this work. Another aspect is that we're recognizing the challenge of the last year with all that was going on. We launched a more regular series of events. We had events on and off. We had workshops, for example. One of the most successful workshop was Women in Economics. Some of you might not know, but in economics, as far as the discipline, women are very much underrepresented. And so we launched that as a separate workshop, and that's been sustained as a successful one. But again, with last year's challenges, we thought we should start doing something on a more regular basis. And I'll just click on the past events for you to see. So we've had already several seminars that are academic seminars in the pure sense of that word, of that phrase, and with audience, again, the international audience, because these are webinars. And again, it opens up a different, and I'm not saying better or worse, but just different culture of academic exchange interaction, a different culture of debating or presentation. And that is where the value is, because you have sort of the layering and the interaction of different views and approaches. And so these are some of the successful workshops and presentations from and webinars from last year, or over the past few months. We've also started something that we now call Diaspora for Development. And so far we've had 2 events. Let me just briefly emphasize those. The first one was with Vartan Marashlan, one of the co-founders and the main person, the manager, let's put it this way, forget his formal title, of Repat Armenia, and sort of repositioning the concept of diaspora conceptually. And then for us, for economists, the challenge is, okay, so how do we formalize this talk in the more scientific way? That's the code word for how do we add math on this. And the second event so far has been with 2 experts from Ireland-based group called the Networking Institute. And it is surprising, maybe for many, especially now this is more connecting with this forum, surprising might be that Armenians are not the only diaspora, or not the only ones with diaspora, rather, right? And the word diaspora has become so much popular these days, largely due to sort of migration from across the world, but also countries that you might not think about are discovering that they also can rely on their diaspora. Well, those of us in New York might agree that the case of Ireland is not so exceptional. We would have expected that. But there's also an organization for diaspora that associates with Scotland, right? There are diaspora groups, or what is being called a diaspora group from other regions as well, right? And so it has the word going back, starting with its origins, sort of 3 classical diasporas, the Jewish, Greek, and Armenian, has now evolved into something a much bigger movement. And what we're trying to do at the Armenian Economic Association, on top of everything that I just talked about, is to understand sort of how this potential can be changed from the word potential into something more practical, and specifically sort of this sustained economic development on the Sustained Economic Development Foundation. Because there's a lot that can be talked, right? We can talk endlessly how great we are and so on, but at the end of the day, it comes to the sort of someone taking initiative and taking action. So in that way, our group is very much a diaspora-based group, because if we look at our membership, it's worldwide. Well, obviously with some clear exceptions, but who knows, right? And we're open to new members. We welcome everyone. We provide to our, or rather we encourage more and more interaction. And those of us on the call who are in the academic world might recognize this more than others probably, but the challenge of being heard, right, and being able to work through the academic obstacles such as publication and so on, our group aims to help people in the economics discipline, in the profession, to move forward in their careers, right? We also have a journal, which is online right now, but we have several interesting papers there. And I'm also on the board of editors of that. And so that's sort of the main part, I think, that would be on the association. We are welcome, we would always welcome generous donations, of course, because that allows us to have even more interesting meetings and invite interesting guests. We've had Darren Asemoglu presented as a guest speaker 2 times, and many other well-known worldwide economists. You can, so welcome to look up at our website, which is, I'll drop it in the chat, very easy, aaa.am, and find more information there. I would like to mention, being very selfish and controlling the time for 2 seconds, as talking about diaspora, I did some time ago a diaspora survey, and I would be glad to talk more about that. Maybe some of you have, actually, Dr. Takooshian, you helped me with spreading the word out. Some of the results were very interesting, and I'm glad to talk more if there's interest in that. So stay tuned for more events. You can sign up for our listserv. Our next event on the topic of diaspora that's coming up is going to be with, oh, let's go to upcoming events, is going to be with, there we go, Ruben Vartanyan and Nune Aleksandr, right? But we also have others that are coming up, and you can easily sign up for those, and you'll be receiving invites to that. So thank you for your time and for your interest.
Dr. Takooshian, you are on mute.
Thank you. I think all of us learned so much about each other's organizations that we simply didn't know before. It's about a little past 9:30. I think we're doing well time-wise. We have Discussant George Gharibian. Professor Gharibian would make some comments. I would ask that if you can include Harut Sasunya at some point, who has a good announcement to make. Dr. Gharibian, thanks for getting us together and sponsoring this event.
No, thank you. I'm so honored to be here and listening to all of this great presentations and great work that all of you are doing, and definitely I think we will have enough time. Definitely we'll have time for Mr. Harut to speak, but also we have a couple questions in the comments. I'll ask those in the after this, but also for people who are watching this in Zoom and are also Facebook Live, please add your questions in the comment section, and then we'll get those. Hopefully, we'll have time to answer all those questions. But I want to also just emphasize a couple or a few things. We learned a lot of things, but just a few things that we learned is that we have people who are building. We are engineers and scientists who help us to kind of build Armenia, learn things and teach people. We have people who are taking care of our sick, our people with their health issues, with medications in places where people cannot have medications. We learned about like what happened during the Artsakh War, and a lot of people in Armenia didn't have medication and they like medical supplies, and our Armenian colleagues were there to help. We learned today that we have colleagues here, like they are concerned about, or they want to build our Armenian identity, the community, and bring people together to make it known that we have so many professionals in our communities and in US, in Armenia, in other countries around the world. And if we are not aware and if we don't know each other, that we will feel like we are alone. but knowing those people, like having them listed, is like it can create a great sense of identity. We learned today that about forgiveness. We learned about oppression and how oppression can create horizontal violence, and we need to basically learn to overcome those oppressive forces and to find hope and to find ways out. And there are techniques, there are specific actions that we can take to do so. We learned that we have so many mental health professionals that are so willing to volunteer their time to help our mental health professionals in Armenia, to help them with the challenges that they were experiencing during the war in Artsakh, and to help them to feel supported, to not to feel being alone and not being able to take all the burden that they felt, that going to the hospitals and working with the soldiers and hearing all of those traumatic things that happened to them, and thinking who I can talk about these things. Like I am the psychologist, and I'm like, I feel overwhelmed, and finding support from places like thousands miles away from Armenia, and they connect via Zoom and they talk to them and feel supported, and the next day going to those hospitals and helping them. It is wonderful. I'm so happy to hear all of these things, and hearing that our colleagues are helping with for us to understand how we can help our country, Armenia's economy, and do workshops, do training for them, and bring colleagues from outside of our Armenian community, and teach them to learn all of these issues or things that are out there. But we need to know, we need to do this work that all of you are doing, and I'm very happy to hear all of the work that you do. So if that's okay, I'll ask my question. It's more like a discussion. Some of you already have mentioned, emphasized some of the things that I'm going to ask. But if you feel like there are other things that you want to say or elaborate on things that you said, please go ahead and share your thoughts. And my question is this, like specifically being in mental health and hearing people's concerns about not finding basically meaning or finding hope, finding that strong identity when they were facing with all this wounded soldiers, and hearing people being killed and not coming back, and also being triggered by the war, and remembering Armenian genocide, remembering other disasters, other problems that happened. That I'm talking about the intergenerational trauma. And they wanted to find hope. They wanted to know that they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay regardless of all these problems. And my question for you is this. I know your work had a lot of good impact on many aspects of Armenians' lives, but have you heard from the people that you work with in Armenia about the impact of the work that you have done, specifically in regard to creating hope? Either if you have heard anything, if you got feedback, if you can share that with us, that'll be great. Or if you have seen, or if you have thought that how your work can create hope, because I'm emphasizing this because I know regardless of where people are and what they do, what profession they are in, people need to have hope in order to actualize their energy, actualize their ideas, and do the work. We may have all these great experts in Armenia or other places, but if they feel that they don't have a good future, they don't have a plan, or their plans would not be actualized, they may not use it. They may not basically bring that energy and those ideas out. So That's the long question. I hope it's clear. But if you have ideas, if you like to share, please go ahead and share, and then we'll go to the other questions.
Yes, I would like to share that after the earthquake, when we went back 6 months later and a year later, while our volunteers were still there working, I remember one of the lectures, a woman came to me and said, you saved my life. And I looked at her and I don't remember her. And I said, thank you so much, but I think you're confusing me with somebody else. She said, no. And she mentioned the lecture that I gave and about the nightmares and signs of PTSD. I was just lecturing normal lecture, but then she was thinking apparently that she was going crazy and that she needed to end her life because she was having all these flashbacks and nightmares and all the intrusive and hypervigilance and just typical PTSD. And apparently that when she heard the normal symptoms, it made her feel like, okay, I'm not going crazy. I can deal with this. I can use the 7-step and I can get better. And apparently she did. And so these are some of the, I don't want to share the larger, where directors say how, great the educational materials were or our volunteers were. But when people like that come to you, it's just, that you're doing something right and you're doing something that they need. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kalayjian. And I also want to emphasize is that the reason I think we need to talk about hope is that not only that is about it's not about, I'm not saying that we need to basically I was going to say we need to be happy and we proud that we are creating hope, but most specifically about knowing the mechanisms of creating hope. That is like, if your work is creating hope, how is that we can learn from each other to use it in other contexts. Other people want to add or share?
Just in general, this is Larry Najarian. I think employing people, empowering people, training them so they can function in the world that they live in, and giving them the tools to excel would give them lots of hope, improve their self-esteem, and help them feed their families and show their neighbors that they don't have to leave Armenia to go to other areas of the world to work. They can survive and thrive in their own country.
Yes.
So to piggyback on that, I employ 2 Armenian folks in my own business. One who I hired in Yerevan last year. The other I hired in Beirut, and then he moved to Yerevan right after the Beirut bombing. So upended his family and moved into Armenia. So both of them are together in Yerevan now, 2 of my employees. And similar situation, what Larry's talking about, it gives them, besides giving them a living wage that they can raise their families on, they're a great benefit to me. This is a win-win situation. They're great employees, they're fantastic workers, my clients love them, and they perform at a high level. So much so that one of my colleagues, non-Armenian, also hired 2 Armenians in Armenia to help him develop an application. So a different set of skills, but again, young Armenians doing great work, and they're seeing, people here are seeing that, the lack of a better term, Armenians can kick ass and take names when it comes to the business world. So though it's a very, very small microcosm of, I think, potentially something that it's which is actually invigorating me to do more of that and bring more of that forward.
And piggybacking on that, there are programs and philanthropies that this is their specific focus. American University of Armenia has the Entrepreneurs in Business and Entrepreneurs in Health. They also have a women's program to empower women. And the Near East Foundation, when they try to build a village, rather than give somebody a cash grant, they help teach them a skill so that they can survive for themselves. And this is another area we have to educate the diaspora in terms of trying to help Armenia. Every time you send a sleeping bag, every time you send clothing, you're taking food away from someone in Armenia who makes that sleeping bag, who makes that shirt, that pants. So again, we have to think of ways to assist and help those striving young people that have ideas and they want to do something in life.
Well, just sorry, we're going to ping back and forth for a bit for that. This is the last thing on here. One of my sons started a clothing company a couple years ago while he's going to university. He's a senior this year, and his clothing company is unrelated, sports wear kind of thing. He does some teamwork and things like that. And he started an Armenian line, and then during the ATOP war, he produced a number of items that were specifically for raising money. My point of bringing this up is that he's been trying to connect with people in Armenia to have, instead of having those things made here or made in China, why not have the textile industry in Armenia do those things? It's been very difficult, even when he's visited during the AGBU mentorship a few years ago, to find those companies. And so we're now kind of looking at, how can we build a marketplace to maybe be able to connect at a wholesale level industries as well. So I think even the young people, I think they see the connection that they can make and be able to not only empower themselves, but empower their friends and family in Armenia.
If I may, I'd like to add a couple of things to what's been said. And as far as hope, and as far as what we're doing, there is another initiative that is sort of picking up. I'm not sure if people know about it, but I think I'm also involved with them. It's called the Armenian Independent University. It's keep changing names, but it's something that's going to be online and sort of a summer school where there's going to be a collection of courses that are offered by specialists, so economists, finance people, management, marketing, whatever, as far as I understand, for free to anyone who signs up, right? So as far as giving hope, I'm a strong believer, all things more or less considered, that education is one of those key factors that offers what we call social mobility. And because not everyone is going to be a great entrepreneur, not everyone is going to work in the IT sector, but the foundational and especially as when it comes to sciences and such, and the formal education is really important. So that's how I see, the organizations that have presented, but also the ones I talked about, the AEA and this university, is supplementing the sort of formal education in Armenia, but also helping it, right? And as far as hope, I think what's been important is that we've thought about, well, what can we do? And one of the brightest ideas was, let's just carry on with things, but reinforce our energy, so that those who are in Armenia who are interested in this field, that we would offer them an opportunity to sort of see, okay, there's work that's being done, and there's sort of light at the end of the tunnel and things like that. I'm not really good with the big words, but something that sustains this academic and scientific interest, because that is something that is fundamental and goes into the future in the long term. So.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else want to add anything? We have more questions. I can move on, but just want to make sure if somebody want to add, that you have a chance.
Yes,
May I
George?
have
Please.
may I have the floor for a second? My name is Levon Toros, and I am enjoying this wonderful meeting. When it comes to the topic of hope, there are many professionals from USA and also other countries that after the war, they are actually organizing to create jobs, especially the industry which is lacking in Armenia in manufacturing systems that they found after the war. They need to create themselves. For example, drones or drone detection or drone killing or drone, whatever, for defending themselves. A big number of professionals are getting together from a diaspora, creating workplaces, because they do find Armenian talent in technologies can create products that not only can serve the military complex of Armenia for the future, but also can sell those products to other companies, other countries in the diaspora, and sort of are trying to create what Israel has done very well in the past. So the technology focus is tremendous. Already have companies have taken orders teaching how to manufacture with high quality to be able, and high standards to be able to sell to anybody in the world, including to US, EOSA, Homeland Security, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about that later on. It's energizing and gives hope to the young people who are technology minded, and they rather than leave the country, go find a job someplace else, they do have an opportunity to create things they want to in Armenia. This is a new beginning, naturally, that created after the war.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Levon.
the
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We are getting very close to the end of the session. I want to make sure that the presenters, if you have anything to add, please go ahead. And if not, we have a couple questions. I want to make sure we get a chance to answer those. And then I know Dr. Takooshian gave 1 minute some time to Mr. Harut Sasunian to speak. So let's see if we can get to all of this. But before we move on,
was a question.
Okay.
There was a question about why, about TARC, that why it didn't work. It's because they were comprised of 5 guys from each side, and they knew nothing about mediation, facilitation, reconciliation, and there was the mediator or facilitator was not strong enough to set limits with them. They were previously from both Turkish and Armenian military and government, so they had very old and very ingrained ideas of what they needed, and it was never really transparent. There was not no integration of women. I was the only woman in the group, and it was just ready to fail.
I mean, we wish they were here. I mean, I hope they were here. They could respond, but let's keep it to this our ideas. Alex, how about you go ahead, and then we'll move to the other question.
I'll be very quick because I spoke about hope and education, and we're talking about our efforts towards Armenia, but there's much hope that needs to be somehow, is the right way to say, created, provided to young people in the diaspora. We often forget, we sort of take the diaspora as a given, but it's not. It's fluid, it's dynamic, it's changing, and in some ways it's collapsing into pieces. So there needs to be, from the organizations that are based in diaspora, rather than being sort of self-centric in terms of we do this, we do that, should be, well, how do we contribute? And I think this is something with consistent parallel, Dr. Kalayjian's sort of ending to us in her presentation, sort of what have we done? And one way this could be done is by encouraging even greater financial investment into this area of education. Scholarships to students, endowed chairs to professors, as much more as possible from the community, because that then will help strengthen the ties, well, the hope for the diaspora and someone who identifies themselves as Armenian, but also helps reconnect with the country itself.
Thank
So,
you, Alek. Thank you, Alek. So 1 minute, Mr. Harut.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I've been working on this plan for years. The purpose is to organize a diaspora Armenian parliament elected by each community, by the members of the community democratically. And we have millions of Armenians around the world and thousands of organizations, but we don't have one structure that combines all of them into one unit. And we want to maximize our resources and our potential by getting organized finally. Something never happened in history of the Armenian diaspora. And we started with forming a nonprofit called High ID. And the purpose of the nonprofit is to start registering Armenians around the world, just like you register to vote anywhere. This is also an election, you need to register. The second benefit is that each registered person will have a High ID card, and that card will entitle him to get a discount when he goes shopping for products and services. And eventually we'll we've already established a chapter in Glendale and a chapter in Yerevan. All Armenians can be a member of High ID, but only diaspora Armenians can participate in the voting to elect diaspora representatives. So if you're interested about this, I suggest you go to highid.org, HYEID.org, where there's a lot more information there. If you give me a few more seconds.
We have very short time, Mr. Harut, if you can make it very brief.
Okay, since many of you talked about the health in Armenia, I'm the president of Armenia Artsakh Fund. In the past 32 years, we've sent $917 million of humanitarian aid, mostly medicine, to Armenia. And I'm very happy to hear your reports. And if there's anything I could do to work with any of you, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have about a minute left. So I don't know if we are able to answer the questions, but I can send these questions to the presenters who've been directed to. But I want to take this 1 minute that is left from our time to just thank everyone, all the presenters, all the participants here in the Zoom and in the Facebook. Thank my colleagues in AAMHA who supported us to make this happen. And I want to also let you know we have 2 more presentations, part of this AAMHA's conference. One is in Armenian tomorrow morning, Los Angeles time. It's in 9 a.m. And it is going to be on families and children who have been impacted by the war in Artsakh. And tomorrow, 7 p.m. Los Angeles time, we will have another presentation is specifically going to talk about Armenian identity. Hopefully you can all join. And thank you so much again for your great presentation. And thank you everyone who participated. Appreciate it. Have a good evening or wherever you are. Good day, good morning.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Want me to edit your
Good night, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit that. I think I need to edit it. Yeah, we'll edit. We'll fix it.